To the Charlie Cook Cricket Podcast. Now, we only had 5 games of county championship cricket this week. Few teams on a break. We're going to break down all 5 of those games. I'm joined with Charlie from the What's He On About podcast. If I can say those words, it would be absolutely fantastic. Charlie, we had a decent set of games. We saw results in 4 out of 5, which is something that we haven't necessarily seen in the earlier weeks. Pitches are starting to firm up a little bit. Bowlers are starting to get into a bit of a rhythm. We're going to start off with Sussex versus Notts, the first game. Sussex score 169 in their first innings. Notts in reply 300 they put on the board. Sussex scored 278 in their second innings, setting Notts, 148 to win. And Hasiba Mead and especially Ben Duckett go out there and give it a smash. Duckett 59 off 31. Good to see him back playing in the county championship after his break. Good win for Notts. They're still top of the table. They're looking good this year.
Yeah, Notts looking seriously good. And they've got batters and bowlers on top form. I think they're going to lose Fergus O'Neill after this game. That Australian overseas going back home is going to be a big loss for Nottinghamshire. And as we look at the bowlers, I love Farhan Ahmed. I think he's absolutely quality.
Oh yeah, he's
I think what we look at mostly, yes, he got 4 wickets in that second innings. However, I just think his economy is more impressive than actually his wicket taking. You know, you talk about control with these young off spinners, and this guy took 4 for 50 odd in 23 overs, I think, 2.3 per over. And it's just astonishing how this young lad, 17, I know we've got a 14-year-old bopping it in the IPL, but I think this is almost as impressive as that. Farhan Ahmed is absolute quality.
Yeah, it was interesting, actually. Fergus O'Neill was on, I think it was the TalkSport Cricket podcast just before this game, and he actually said that Farhan Ahmed has the most control of an off-spinner that he's ever seen before. So, I mean, that's some praise. I mean, he's been in, I presume he would have played against Nathan Lyon at some point. It seems a big thing for him to have the most, because he does just seem to have a load of control. We've gone from a India tour with Shoaib Bashir and Tom Hartley, and you have to admit the one thing that those two don't offer you is control, and it seems to be control, and he's picking up wickets. For me, he's probably, if you were just going to pick a spinner, he'd be up there for me in the England squad at the moment. I know it sounds ridiculous because he's 17, but maybe teenagers are now the new 20-year-olds, that we're having 14-year-olds that should be playing for India, and we've got 17-year-olds that should be the first choice to an Ashes tour in Australia. Are we at that point yet with him? I don't want to be outrageous, but there's a lot like Calvin Harrison, who has been on loan at Northants, obviously on Notts' book, and bowled really well in the game against Lancs. But Farhan Ahmed is keeping him out of the squad, and there's a good reason why.
It's really interesting how you can have these young lads who if you take their age out of the equation, as you said, I would struggle to find a spinner who's bowling better than Farhan Ahmed. And if you look ahead, I've done a post fairly recently on the fact that I wouldn't mind him playing against Zimbabwe at Trent Bridge, his home ground. You know, that for me is a really doable shout. The problem then is, I think it is too early for the young lad to go and then bowl in a series against India. Let's say he plays against Zimbabwe and plays unbelievably well. If he then go and plays against India and then he somehow goes all right there, then all of a sudden you're picking a 17-year-old as a frontline spinner in the Ashes who is undoubtedly going to get pumped and ruin his career. So I'd be keen just to hold off a little bit on Farhan Ahmed.
Yeah, it's that thing of do you go all guns blazing now and throw him into the side, and he's a little bit too young and it all goes wrong, and then he comes out this similar to how we're seeing Banton come back into the squad now after he was put into that squad too young, and it was during COVID and it was all a bit weird, and got pulled out, screwed his kind of early part of his career up a little bit. I think he's great. I think he is really good, and I'm glad that you brought him up because he's been a staple for me in my fantasy side so far, and I'm not going to be taking it out anytime soon. Another player that probably will be in the England squad this summer, I could probably guarantee it a little bit more. Josh Tongue takes 5 for 44 in the first innings. He looks like better than he did in 2023, and I thought he was incredible in 2023. He obviously had all last year off with injury, made his Notts debut this year after making the switch last year. Just looks really good and looks like the bowler that we're going to need for the next 8 months.
Yeah, Josh Tongue's an interesting one because when I look at my set England fast bowlers who I think have got a good chance, a great chance of being in that England squad, Josh Tongue is always for me on the fringes, and he never really feels like that pick for me. Where I'd go, yeah, get him in the England team. He's what we need. Yes, he's tall. Yes, he comes from height. Yes, he bowls at good speed. Yes, he'd be good in Australia. However, there's it just feels to me like there's a couple of, wicket taking and control issues that I just feel don't quite make him an international bowler. I don't know how you think about that, but just for me, I still don't think he is that international player, but he's clearly playing well in the county stuff.
I'd have him over Gus Atkinson. Now, I know that Gus Atkinson had an incredible year last year, but I really would have him over Gus Atkinson. I think he's a better bowler than Gus Atkinson. I think he's got more pace. I think he's got a bit more control than Atkinson's got. I think he's special. I think he's going to be. He'll be first name on the team sheet in that bowling lineup for the next 5-10 years. I really think he's that good.
Wow.
He has really impressed. I mean, if you just say you probably if first test against India, who's your seam bowling attack going into that? Let's say you're going to need 3. Let's say we pick a spinner. Stokes is fully fit. He could be the 4th seamer. The 3 that you'd pick right now, Joffre's probably not going to be fit, and Markwood definitely isn't going to be fit. And you can't pick Ollie Stone because he's not fit either. Who's the 3?
Could I just clarify here? Am I Brendan McCullum, or am I me?
You can be you.
Okay, so I would pick number 1, Bryden Cass.
Okay.
He bowls for me.
Yeah.
Number 2, I feel like this is a boring pick, and it's probably what Brendan McCullum will do as well. But I don't think you can ignore Gus Atkinson's last summer. It's so anti-Bazball. I keep thinking as if I'm Brendan McCullum here, but I just do think you've got to play Gus Atkinson after his last year. And then all of a sudden, the third seamer is getting away from me. Josh Tongue's the only one on my mind right now.
Who else? You've got Atkinson, you've got Tongue, you've got Potts, you've got Cook.
Yeah, okay, cheers for those options. I'm going to go for Cook, Cass, and Potts. There's my 3 best bowlers, I think. For me.
I'd go Tongue. I think he's got to be in there. I don't know if I'd go Potts. I'm between Potts, Cook, and Cass. Now, I'd play all 4 and not pick a spinner because I don't think you need one. That's what I'd probably do. But if I had to pick 3, I'd probably go with Cass. I'm not sure how his injury is going to pull up and different things like that.
Yeah. Cass is a really interesting. I think Cass and Atkinson are both interesting ones. Cass, you've got is brilliant overseas. We'll just keep working for you. But actually, in terms of how good he is at being taking wickets in England, he's not quite up there. And Gus Atkinson again is really interesting because people keep saying he's lost some pace. He's not bowling as well as he did last year. And you look at last year and he took wickets against West Indies and Sri Lanka on home soil. So all of a sudden, those 2 lads look slightly less pickable. And I think Potts, for me, is so underrated. And again, like Cass, works so hard, keeps powering away. And he's looked seriously threatening. He's got great stats this year in county championship, and I just think he, for me, is more of an international bowler than Josh Tongue.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I rate Potts so highly, and a lot more than probably the England setup. He's always the one that just doesn't seem to get picked. I would have taken him on the Champions Trophy tour. I thought he was the best bowler in that series against Australia at the back end of last summer. I think every time he's put on an England shirt, he's looked great. He's I think he's so accurate. I think his pace is higher than what people think it is. I think he's probably 83, 84 mile an hour, which is kind of all you need. You don't need to be any quicker than that, especially for the next kind of a series in England and then a series in Australia where the ball's hooping around corners and seeming a foot past leg stump. I think that's about the pace you need. I think he's the closest that we've got to a Scott Boland type. And I think that's a bowler that we're really going to need coming up to the Ashes. So I'd like to see Potts picked, but I'm happy with whichever way they go. What they'll probably do is they'll pick Wokes, Carson, Atkinson, and we'll think, oh, that was a waste of time, wasn't it?
They do love the loyalty picks, don't they?
They do. Good win for Notts. I don't think you've got anything to worry about if you're a Sussex fan. You've looked pretty good at the start of the season, and this Notts side has looked incredible and strengthened slightly with adding Duckett into it. All right, moving on to Somerset versus Surrey. Somerset again struggling this year. First innings they scored 283. You have 5 wickets from Jordan Clark for Surrey. Surrey in reply 367, giving them a lead of about 80. Then the wheels fall off of Surrey, out of Somerset. They are bowled out for 119. It would have been a lot less if it wasn't for a Pretorius 50 towards the end, and Surrey knocked off just 36 with just losing 2 wickets. Dominant performance from Surrey at the Oval once again. Their first win of the season. Somerset are still hunting for their first win of the season. They've drawn 2 and lost 2. I seem to ask this question every week. If you're a Somerset fan, should you start worrying?
I think yes. I think they are getting in positions in the game where it could go either way, and they're letting it slip. I don't think they're playing bad cricket. I really don't. I mean, what kind of team plays bad cricket when their number 6 gets a triple ton, 370? You know, and it's just. I think Somerset should really start worrying now because they've got good players, you know, and they are putting in decent performances. However, as a team, they're not linking it up. There's an argument that could click and they could all start playing well at the same time, putting in great performances. But what I worry about with this team is when it gets into those moments where the game really, really matters, where it could really take a turn, they're not winning those moments. A great example is that game against Worcestershire, first game of the year. You got in an unbelievable position to win a game against, you know, all respect to Worcestershire, probably the worst team in Division 1, and they haven't been able to take 20 wickets on a Taunton surface, you know? So that, for me, is why Somerset should be worrying at this point.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, in Surrey's first innings, they have them 305 for 7. The lead's only 20 at that point. They then let Gus Atkinson and Dan Lawrence bat on a little bit longer than they should do. Surrey get a decent first innings lead, and you're thinking, okay, Somerset have just got to score 300, 320. They give Surrey 240 to chase on the final day, and all of a sudden this game's interesting. And then just to collapse in a heap. They were 38 for 7 at one point. That's how bad it got. Like, Surrey played well, but watching that Somerset innings, it just felt like they were just there was just nothing there. It was they were trying to throw away the game. It was just Surrey were bowling well, and it was a case of, well, we don't know what to do, so we'll just get out. And then they just tried to hunker down, and it went against how their batsmen want to play, and it didn't make any sense. I don't know if this Archie Vaughan top of the order stuff is working. Obviously, they had the injury to Sean Dixon that didn't help them, to meaning that he couldn't bat. Andy Umeed scoring a load of runs for the second 11 at the moment. I'd be surprised if he doesn't come into the team. I know you miss out on a spinner if you drop Archie Vaughan, but I don't see it at the moment. I don't see. Hey, he scored. What did he score in the first innings? 36, and he looks okay for 36, but I think they've got to look elsewhere at this point.
Yeah, I think I was actually able to see Archie Vaughan bat firsthand at the Gillis a couple of weeks ago, and he looked good. He was getting in good positions, not giving many chances away. And then he gets a short ball just above his hips and he pulls it straight to long leg, who's about 10 yards off the boundary. And you can't just think, this guy is ready, but he's still got a lot to learn. And that, for me, is really highlighting the overall feel of Somerset's batting at the minute. They're getting to good positions and they're giving it away.
Yeah, it felt like this game was alive and that there could have been a positive result for Somerset in it, even if it was going to be a draw. And a draw at the Oval against Surrey is a positive result. You've got to take those, but it was just, it looked miserable. It's been miserable for the first half of the season. I don't know if that Worcestershire game took a lot out of them of not being able to get that win, and then all of a sudden you start to have a few doubts in your head, and it starts to go through the team. I'm sure that's not the case, and there's just a few batsmen out of form, and everything will sort itself out. But I would start to worry if I'm a Somerset fan. It's not looking great so far. I mean, the only reason you're not bottom is because Worcestershire are possibly one of the worst teams I've seen in Division 1 in a long time. Surrey on the board, it was always going to happen eventually. They get their first win, haven't lost yet, 3 draws thrown in there. They look okay. I worry about their batting lineup sometimes. I don't know if Rory Burns is the player that he has been in the past in the county championship. Ollie Pope can be hit and miss. Ben Folkes hasn't been scoring those dependable runs like he has done previous. Dan Lawrence has been okay. And not having a spinner is Surrey's biggest issue.
Yeah, it shocks me that we can be in a position here saying that Surrey's batting doesn't really look that good. And when you look through that batting lineup and you see a top 6 of international players, a couple are not playing there, but they are all international standard players. And I really don't think Surrey should be worried about their batting. I really don't. I mean, Pope and Smith, yes, they're going to go. However, that Surrey squad always so deep, and it always feels they've always got batters in form. And there's no doubt for me, yes, Burns might be on his way down. But this he will get runs. Seeley is absolutely churning runs at the minute. Folkes will kick into gear. He hasn't kicked into gear yet. And I really don't think the Surrey guys have got much to worry about in terms of batting. However, it is the bowling, as you say, that worries me. Dan Worrell, yes, he's going to get wickets. Yes, he's going to have an average. Jordan Clark looks a brilliant all-rounder. People are raving about him. But there's holes in the bowling lineup. Atkinson will go. There's no spinner. That's where they can't take 20 wickets on an average surface for me.
Yeah, I think that is a big issue, and that's been their problem for the first 3 games of just not having a spinner and not being able to take those wickets when spins dominate a little bit more than you'd expect early season in the county championship due to the weather that we've had. I think it's going to get a little bit more seam friendly for the next few weeks. But you're going to start getting into Kookaburra ball rounds, and at the back of the end of the season, when you're going to need a spinner, and I think Surrey are going to have to do a bit of business during the season to try and get someone in. Even if that is looking at someone like a Bashir going back to them, because he's not getting picked for Somerset at the moment. That's not going to happen. His loan deal's done with Glamorgan, so it wouldn't surprise me if they're on the hunt and Bashir's going to be one of the names that they get a shout from. Somerset probably won't loan him to Surrey because we probably look at them as direct rivals, but maybe that happens. I'm not 100% sure, but that's where they need to strengthen. That batting lineup does just worry me. I don't know if it's the fact that I just don't rate a lot of their bats, but are proven performers. I just think Burns has had a couple of down years now, and I never know what you're going to get with Ollie Pope. And as I said before, I'm just not 100% sure on their batting lineup this year as I was last year. Moving on to Worcestershire versus Durham. Worcestershire score 162 in their first innings. You have 5 wickets from Jake Ball. He picks up 3 early wickets as well. Durham in reply 136, giving Worcestershire a small lead, which they wouldn't have expected after such a low first innings total. Then Worcestershire managed to shit the bed quite bad. 81 they are bowled out for. 4 wickets from Ben Rain, 4 wickets for new signing Cody Yusuf, and Durham chased down the 108 that they need with 6 wickets in hand. Pretty dominant from Durham. I mean, a player that they were missing that we talked about earlier in Matty Potts, to put that performance in of 81 to bowl them out for is pretty impressive. Worcestershire are going down, aren't they? There is absolutely no chance that they stay in this division this year.
Yeah, I think a lot of people's previews, first of all, had them going down, and second of all, couldn't really name that many people who are really going to put on a show for Worcestershire. And that's the thing. There's no one in that batting lineup that makes me think, yeah, this guy could go crazy this year. He could go absolutely mental and just bat the whole way and somehow keep your team up, because that's realistically what they need. They need someone to take it by the horns and just win games for them. They need one person, basically, but they don't have that. No one in that team screeched out at you. I mean, Ethan Brooks put in that unbelievable innings the other day against Essex. That was a one-man batting show, basically, and they couldn't get it over the line. So Worcestershire, I'm sorry to say, they are all basically already relegated. They were lucky enough to stay up last year, but this year they really are going down.
Yeah, I tend to agree. They just look poor. They just really struggle. I thought Durham played well. I like Durham this year. They had a couple of shaky starts, a couple of shaky performances at the start of the season, but they seem to have sorted it out now. Whether that's done them enough damage, I don't think so. If they're pretty perfect from here on in, to get kind of a title push. Just that 81, like the wickets just kept falling. It never got any better from a Worcestershire perspective, that innings. And after being bowled out for 160 odd and taking a first innings lead and actually bowling really well in the first innings, just must be a confidence killer, something like that. Just to watch all the wickets. I mean, this game was wrapped up in 2 days. It was that quick. I thought Durham played well. Ben Rain just takes wickets and doesn't go for any runs. If you do play the cricket draft, then get him in your side now, because it's guaranteed points every single time.
Yeah, I agree. Look at those first innings stats figures of 17 overs, 7 maidens, 2 for 16. 0.9 of an economy. This guy is ridiculous. To be honest, he's not a name that I was really throwing around at the start of the year as someone that was going to impress me, and actually Ben Rain has absolutely surprised so many people in the county game that this guy is a quality bowler, and he's just similar to Sam Cook, just absolute controlling the end. And he might not take all the wickets because he's creating pressure for the guy at the other end to take the wickets for him, but he's got that as well. He's taken 6 wickets in this match. And I think one of the main things for me at Durham is that opening pair, isn't it? Alex Lees and Ben McKinney. Both, I think, are underperforming this year so far, with an average of about 40 each. They've both got 100 to their name. But I think if those two kick into gear, Durham will win almost every game, because they've both got the quality to win games for Durham. And Lees in particular, we've seen him light up the county championship for the last few years. And Ben McKinney is up and coming as potentially one of England's next test openers. So that for me is their real highlight, as well with Emilio Gay at number 3. I mean, they're all top quality batters who could go seriously well in Division 1.
Yeah, I agree. Boyd Ackerman also just scores runs for fun in the county championship. Will Rhodes was a really good pickup for them. Ollie Robinson hasn't even got going yet. England call-ups last year. Obviously didn't quite get to play, but he's a special talent. They've just got a really good side. I like their side. I like how they put it together. I think their bowling attack's pretty good when everyone's fit and ready to go and there's rest and stuff. But Durham look good. Worcestershire don't look good. That's kind of all I can say on this game. It was a bit of a hammering towards the end. Moving on to Division 2, we have Gloucestershire versus Leicestershire. This one was actually a bit of a nail biter, and you wouldn't have expected it. Gloucestershire 252 in the first innings, 93 not out from James Bracey. Bit of a one-man show. 5 wickets for Ben Green. Leicestershire, in reply, 262, taking a first innings lead of 10 runs. Dom Goodman picking up 5 wickets for Gloucestershire. Then Gloucestershire collapsed in a heap after a pretty good start. They were 87 for 1. They collapsed to 152 all out. Leicestershire chased down the 143 runs needed, but do it with 2 wickets remaining. At one point during the chase, they were 42 for 5. I'm thinking, have they thrown this away? But they managed to see it over the line with a 47 from Ben Cox. I was very upset this game. We didn't get the Rian Ahmed opening the batting that I've enjoyed for the last couple of weeks. And all of a sudden, Rian Ahmed should open the batting for England. He's dropped down to number 3 now, and he scored 4 and 0. So let's get him back to the top of the order, and he's going to be England's next opener.
Leicestershire are such a funny, wacky batting order, aren't they? It feels like they turn it upside down every single week. We've got Ian Holland, who can bat anywhere in the top 9. Same with Rian Ahmed, who can bat anywhere. Literally anywhere you put him, he'll bat. And it just... Rian Ahmed is such a... I mean, everyone would love this bloke to do well and play for England. He's been on the fringes for the last couple of years. We were absolutely begging him to be picked for England over the winter in the white ball stuff. And seeing him open the batting and bat well, just, I mean, it gets everybody going, doesn't it? Everyone desperately wants to see this guy in the England lineup, let alone as an opening batsman. And that's what we need in the England Test lineup. So why not play your all-round spinner at the top of the order to go and absolutely whack it? Is that not perfect Bazball material?
Yeah, I like. I would have. I've picked him already in my head to replace Zach Crawley. He's already in my side. I want him pretty bad. I like this Leicestershire team. I think this Leicestershire team have got something this season. There's just a lot of all rounders in there of Ben Green, Van Beek, Ian Holland, Rian Ahmed. There's a lot of people that can kind of bat anywhere, bowl anywhere. The one thing I will say about Rian Ahmed is he just hasn't bowled a lot.
I know.
He just doesn't seem to be bowling, which is kind of the main reason he's there. Now, I don't know if that's just a case of because they've got so many around us, they've got a lot of bowling options and can go a fair few different directions, and their pitches haven't favoured spin as much. But it does seem odd that he hasn't bowled yet. It's a shame. I thought this Gloucestershire team was actually going to do quite well this year. But they've played 4, lost 2, drawn 2. It's not looking great for them at the moment. Okay, it's still early in the season. But there's some good players in that Gloucestershire side. I mean, Cameron Bancroft, Cameron Green, obviously, that's come over for a few games, James Bracey, Zaman Akhtar, who I think is really exciting as a fast bowler, and just hasn't quite clicked for them yet. I don't know what the issue was. They were kind of around my 3rd and 4th pick, might go up this season, might not, but they don't look great.
Yeah, I think Ben Charlesworth's also a quality player as well, again, who hasn't really kicked into gear. And they just scream, don't they, of that mid to low table, at very average season in Division 2. James Racey will get them a few wins, and I really don't think Gloucestershire are a team to rave about and not really a team to worry about. You know, players like Dom Goodman, who's really starting to break into this team. I went to university with him, actually, and he is a quality player.
9 wickets this week.
Yeah, unbelievable stuff. And he really has been just in and out of that side, not really being able to solidify his place in the team. And, I mean, to put on a show like that, he's going to be picked for possibly even the whole season. But a point on Rian Ahmed, why he isn't bowling spin, I think every single game Leicester have played, almost 20 wickets have been taken by seamers.
Yeah.
And I just really don't think it's a position for a fairly young leggy to come and bowl some long hops and some short pitch bowling. So that's the reason for Rian Ahmed. But back to Gloucestershire, I really do think they're just a mid-table side. Bancroft will get your runs, Bracey will get your runs, but yeah, not really much else to say on Gloucestershire.
No, I think Leicestershire could push a promotion, have a promotion push this year. I think they've got the players to do it. I think they've got the team to do it.
Yeah.
I think they look really good this year. So don't be surprised if they are up towards the top of the table come September. Finally, oh, go on.
Why do you think? Is it just me, or can you not see the word Leicestershire in Division 1?
It doesn't feel very Division 1. Like it's very Glamorgan doesn't feel very Division 1. Gloucestershire doesn't sound very Division 1. I'm trying to think who else doesn't. Northamptonshire, not Division 1. I'm with you. Derbyshire again doesn't feel very Division 1. Yeah. There are staple Division 2 teams, and it would work the other way. So Surrey, not Division 2 team.
Yeah.
Lancs don't feel like a Division 2
team. No,
but
not
obviously
at all.
they are there. Middlesex have, God knows what they're doing this year. We'll get on to them. I don't know if sometimes it feels like they shouldn't play cricket, and sometimes they could win Division 1. Who knows? But no, I'm with you. I completely understand that. They do. It does. They'd feel very out of place in Division 1. Moving on to the final game of the week, Derbyshire versus Middlesex. Derbyshire, first innings on a pretty flat one, 472 they score, 107 for Martin Anderson against his former county. You had 3 wickets for Nathan Fernandez, bowling his part-time off spin. Middlesex in reply, 315. Narrowly avoid or miss going past the follow-on target by, I think it was 7 runs in the end. Couldn't quite get there. I think it was Jack Davis that holed out too long on. 4 wickets for Zach Chappell, who's had a pretty good start to the season. And then Middlesex bat out for the rest of the game. 307 for 7 until the two sides shook hands. Max Holden top scoring with 94. It was 50s from Zafar Gohart and Ryan Higgins, but pretty much saved the day for him. Pretty slow, pretty attritional stuff, but exactly what they needed to do. Derbyshire have actually surprised me this year. I didn't think that they were going to be anywhere near the level that they are. I kind of had them stapled on of being that bottom team in Division 2 again, but they're getting runs. I mean, Wade Madsen looks like he's rolled back the clock a bit. Caleb Jewell's a really good signing, although he didn't score any runs in this game. Martin Anderson's a really good pickup. I liked him at Middlesex. There just wasn't a spot in the side for him with Higgins in there. So it makes sense that he made the move. Blair Tickner was a good overseas sign, and Jack Morley, the signing from Lancs, has done pretty well for him. So Derbyshire look pretty good this year.
Yeah, there's a name I'm going to pick out, actually. I've played some cricket with him. Harry Kane. He has been playing really, really well for Derbyshire this year. He got an 80 the other day. He got a 70 in this game. And this guy's been, he used to be at Hampshire, played a lot of Hampshire second 11 cricket, then went to Derbyshire. And actually in the last couple of years, he's really been getting some brilliant hundreds, playing actually a lot of T20 cricket for Derbyshire second 11. But actually also now, especially over the last year, really getting good runs in the longer format. And it's just great to see Harry Kane actually starting to get good runs. And I think this guy's a name we need to be, talking about more, that he can do it on this stage. And I think it'll be great when he can get that next 100. I think he's going to kick into gear and be a brilliant player for Derbyshire. But I do think Wayne Madsen's also got a lot left in the tank this year. I feel like he will be. It's probably quite a simple statement, but Wayne Madsen for me will get a lot of runs and over the next few county championship games. But Derbyshire as a whole team, they look balanced, don't they? They just look like they've got enough in both areas. However, do I think they could go all the way? No, I don't
No.
think that this team has, league winners in that team.
No, I tend to agree. I mean, they're going to lose Blair Tickner at some point. I don't think that bowling lineup is going to be good enough to carry them any further than kind of mid-table. They'll score some runs, but that would worry me. I mean, Middlesex, on the other hand, haven't had the greatest start to the season. Was a lot of people's picks to go up. They obviously had that loss versus Kent. I think it was Kent, if I remember rightly. Beat Glamorgan pretty comfortably, and then saved the draw this week. Had a game against Lancs, first game of the season. Either here nor there. It could have gone either way. Lancs tried to throw it away at the end when it looked like they could win it, which was a pretty good finish. But yeah, the two sides that I would have guaranteed to go up this season of Middlesex and Lancashire just don't quite look to be as dominant as I expected them to be. Lancashire obviously wasn't playing this week, so we don't have to talk about how bad they are, which is always nice. I think Middlesex will still go up. I think that, especially what you think you're going to bring Kane Williamson into this side for the last 5 games of the season. That changes a lot. Then that's a guaranteed someone to average 65. Is that too much of a push in Division 2 of the county championship for someone like Kane Williamson?
I think that's an understatement, to be honest. I can see Kane Williamson rocking up, middle of the season, especially to the back end of the season with that Kookaburra ball with flat wickets. And I think Williamson will tear it up. I could honestly see him averaging, upwards of 70 and just getting runs every single game. But a man I want to talk about for Middlesex is, I'd love to hear your thoughts on him, because it feels like he gets runs every time I see him. I saw him get 100 at Lords on the first weekend of the season against Glamorgan. But how good of a player is Max Holden? He's really kicking into gear this year, it seems.
Really coming to his own. He struggled a bit before last season, and kind of struggled to almost keep his place in the side. Cemented his place in the side last year, and has just had an absolute flyer of a year so far this year. He's the top run scorer in Division 2 by quite some distance. He's averaging 63 so far this year. He just looks really good, and it's something that Middlesex has struggled with, of runs in that top order. And hopefully Max Holden can fill that spot, especially when Sam Robson comes back into the side, and it starts to feel a little bit more comfortable in that top order. I'm not sure about Nathan Fernandez. I don't know which way they're going to go with him. He just hasn't really scored any runs at the start of the season. But no, Max Holden is really exciting. And then you think you're going to have Max Holden, Lewis Deploy, Ryan Higgins. Ben Geddes has had a really good start to the season as well. That was a good signing from Surrey for Middlesex. I think their batting isn't an issue. I think sometimes on flat wickets they're going to struggle to take wickets like they did this week. Dane Patterson hasn't helped as much as I thought he would with that. Again, it's a bit samey, that bowling attack of Roland Jones, Cullen, Higgins. I think Zafar Gohar has been a great signing this year.
Yeah.
He's not only taking wickets, he's scoring runs. Just that seam bowling attack it just feels like it's missing something extra, and would have liked him to maybe try and pick up someone with a bit more pace. I mean, Sonny Baker, for instance, coming to Hampshire, if he was on the market, could Middlesex have been in for him? That would have been nice to see.
It's interesting. If I just quickly compare it to that Derbyshire team we were talking about, which looked well balanced. Middlesex and Derbyshire I can see finishing very evenly, but Middlesex with a stronger batting lineup, and Middlesex just with, as you're saying, missing gaps in their bowling attack. And it just feels like, especially later on in the season, you're going to need to be confident of taking 20 wickets. If you want to get promoted, 20 wickets is almost going to be more important than batting all day, because batting gets easier as we go through the year, and bowling gets harder. You need to make sure, especially that pace bowling lineup, need to be on form and firing. And I just feel Toby Roland Jones in particular, he doesn't feel penetrating. He doesn't feel like he's a player that can win you the game anymore. He's not that guy we saw have the magic 2017, is he?
No, he's not that player anymore. It's been a long time now, and he's a bit of an elder statesman now. He took that job off of Tim Murta, of being that kind of captain and the head, the kind of leader of that seam bowling attack. I think he's done it well. There'll be games when the pitch suits him that he'll be able to take wickets. But apart from that, it is what it is now. You know that you can have someone running up and it's going to be kind of 78, 79 mile an hour. It's going to be pretty accurate, but there's not going to be anything too special in there on too many occasions. But I think we've got a good chance of going up this year. I'd be surprised if we didn't, especially with Lancs having such a bad start to the year. We're in fourth. We've got Kent, Leicestershire and Glamorgan coming up. I'd be surprised if we didn't win 2 out of 3 of those. But I'm pretty confident with how we sit at the moment. But I think that is the whole of the county championship roundup for round 4. Charlie, I do have one question. Do you play cricket draft?
I do not actually.
You
I
do
can't.
not?
Fancy cricket is, or fancy football, or anything fancy in general. Just unfortunately, just I suffer. It makes me suffer, Charlie. It really makes me suffer.
I was going to ask you how your team was getting on, but that's fine. How's your hypothetical team getting on? You're first, didn't you? I heard.
Yeah, no. I'm actually winning. I think I've already won. Actually, I think I'm that far ahead. But I mean, I've probably got Rian Ahmed opening the batting, if that's a possibility. But no, I think I wonder if Joe Root playing this week. I
He
think
is,
possibly
yes. Joe Root
could be
is back.
And is Harry Brook back as well? I think you
No,
got a
Harry
few
Brook
big
is
names.
not. Harry Brook is not back.
Okay, is Joe Root a pick for this week, Charlie?
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think so. He might be. I could see it happening. Might be a little bit too expensive for my blood. Picking a player like that for 1 or 2 weeks. So maybe I'll give him a miss this week. But I had an absolute shocker of a week 3. I had a pretty good week 4. I'm back up to, where am I? 400th overall at the moment, I think. I finished just outside of the top 100 last year, so I want to finish in the top 100 this year. That's my plan. But let us know down in the comments how your cricket draft teams went on, and also who's going to be promoted from Division 2, because I think that's the biggest question at the moment. Not who's going to win it, it's probably going to be Surrey again. But who is going to get promoted from Division 2 this year? Also, while you're there, go check out Charlie. All of his links will be in the description and the show notes, wherever you're watching or listening. Does some wonderful stuff, and will grace your ears if you're ever listening to a Hampshire game as well. So go check him out. All of his stuff is below, and I'll see you guys probably either later on this week or for another roundup of the county championship. So have a good one. Remember to like, leave a review, leave a comment, all the usual stuff. I'll see you guys in the next one.